In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through the best foods to lose weight for basketball effectively. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna share with you one of my favorite power tips to combine everything we talk about into something that's very applicable so you can walk away from this video and start doing this stuff today and lose fat effectively for basketball. First things first, you gotta understand what the goal is of your nutrition plan when you're trying to lose fat for basketball. I have multiple videos on the channel about this. I'm not gonna go into this super in depth, but in short, you gotta be in a calorie deficit or eating less calories than you're burning. So the foods we're gonna talk about today are going to support that goal. They're going to make it easier to get into a calorie deficit without feeling super hungry and having it be an issue that keeps you from losing fat. The first food we're gonna look at that's gonna make the fat loss process a lot easier for you is gonna be any source of protein, because protein is one of the 3 macronutrients and it is the most satiating of the 3 macronutrients, meaning it keeps you fuller for longer. And that's gonna help you fight off hunger during a fat loss phase. You're gonna feel hungry to some extent, that's just part of losing fat. You can't avoid it completely, but including protein in your diet is going to help you manage that hunger and not let it be something that gets out of control and causes you to go off the rails. Because think about it, if you've ever had chicken breast, it's very, very difficult to overeat it. You have to actively try. And even if you try, let's say you had an entire pound of chicken breast, that's still not that many calories. I don't even think it's 1,000 calories. So it's really, really hard to overeat. And that applies to just about any protein source, except for protein powder, because it's in liquid forms, because it's not as satiating, but just ignore that. Overall, protein is very, very satiating. So it's gonna help keep you fuller for longer and fight off any cravings. And also another benefit of including enough protein in your nutrition plan during your fat loss phase is gonna help you maintain muscle mass, because what stimulates muscle protein synthesis? Of course, weight training does, but also protein intake. And in a situation where you're in that calorie deficit, you wanna make sure you're eating enough protein to offset any muscle protein losses. And another benefit of including enough protein in your nutrition plan is that it has a higher thermic effect. So protein requires more energy burned to actually absorb it and digest and utilize it than the other 2 macronutrients. This isn't make or break, so it's not like eating even more protein, just more and more and more piling on top of that is going to get this massive benefit, but it is something to take into consideration. And then to refresh your memory, what foods have protein in them? Remember, things like lean meats, fish, dairy, things of that nature. There are plant-based sources as well. I have some other videos on the channel going over this stuff, so I'm not gonna waste too much time here talking about it, but remember, those are your main sources of protein. And now moving into the second type of food we're talking about today, it's gonna be fiber. And just like protein, fiber is very satiating, so it's gonna help keep you fuller for longer and avoid hunger that's just too much for you to handle. Again, hunger is a normal part of the process during a fat loss phase. You're not gonna avoid it completely, but including things like protein and now fiber is gonna help you mitigate that as much as possible and make this fat loss phase as easy as possible. And fiber is gonna be typically found in things like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, things of that nature. And it's a type of carbohydrate. And just to illustrate this example, think of something like oatmeal versus something like white rice. You could probably eat a lot of white rice without feeling super full, but you're gonna have a difficult time overeating oatmeal because it's just gonna be uncomfortable. And at a certain point, you're not gonna wanna keep eating oatmeal. So we can use that to our advantage during your fat loss phase to put you in a position where you don't feel the need to overeat constantly. And again, white rice is not bad. I'm not saying to avoid that. I include it all the time, even during a fat loss phase. It's one of my favorite sources of carbohydrates, especially for athletes like basketball players. But it's just something to think about when you're putting together your meals. How can you make it as easy as possible to be satisfied without feeling the need or want to overeat and eat foods that take you over your calorie limit and out of that calorie deficit? And before we get into the power tip for today, if you're enjoying this video, it's helping you out, make sure you drop a like on it and subscribe and turn on your notifications, because even if you subscribe, you don't really get notified when I post a video, so you might miss it. So make sure you hit that notification bell. Now, how can we combine those 2 principles we talked about? So making sure you get your protein intake in and also making sure you get your fiber in. How can we combine those super easily to make it easy to stick to that calorie deficit during your fat loss phase? What I like to recommend is having a really big salad every day. That's gonna help you get plenty of fiber in from the vegetables, maybe even some whole grains you toss in there, and you can get your protein in. You can toss in some chicken, meat, fish, whatever you want in there. And it's a really big meal that's gonna keep you pretty full for a pretty long time without taking you over that calorie limit. And also you can create a lot of variety there because you don't have to have the same salad every single day. You can mix and match ingredients throughout the week. alternating every week, whatever you want to do to keep the plan interesting to you, because that's a whole other conversation. You've got to keep the plan interesting and fun for you, because if you're just eating boring foods all the time, it's not going to be very likely that you're going to stick to that plan for a long time. And if you want to learn how to build out an effective fat loss plan, like from start to finish, make sure you check out the playlist. It's up on the screen right now. It'll take you, like I said, start to finish through the entire process, building a fat loss nutrition plan for you that'll be effective and help you lose weight for basketball.